This meeting of the Senate Judiciary Committee will come to order. Before turning to our agenda, I'd like to take a moment to personally thank someone. Mary Manning Petrus has worked on this committee. She comes from the Federal Public Defender's Office. She's been on detail to my committee staff for the last 2 years, and her assignment ends next week. My office has hosted a detailee from the Federal Public Defender's Office since 2009, and they've brought some valuable underrepresented perspective to the committee's deliberations. Mary is the latest in a long line of outstanding detailees. She's been a criminal defense lawyer for nearly 30 years, and for the last 2 years, she's played a critical role in advancing bipartisan criminal justice reform bills reported by the committee. Mary inherited her commitment to public service from her dad, Richard Manning, a retired police officer who unfortunately passed away last year. I know he must have been very proud of his daughter. Please join me in thanking Mary Petrus for serving the Judiciary Committee. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Whitehouse.
before we get to the business of the committee, can I offer a word of thanks and congratulations to Senator Blumenthal and Senator Grassley, who wrote an amicus brief in the JASTA matter, the civil liability for terrorists. I had the privilege of joining the brief, but it was led by Blumenthal and Grassley. And not only did the D.C. Circuit unanimously go with the recommendation of the brief, but they cited the brief in the decision. I write a fair number of amicus briefs. They aren't often or even always or even often cited. So that's a little kudos to Senators Blumenthal and Grassley for that.
Certainly happy to have that on a record. In the category of kudos, I think it's maybe the first meeting we've had since one of our members has enlarged his family. I want to congratulate Senator John Ossoff and his wife for the birth of their daughter, Ava, 4 weeks ago.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I also want to thank Ranking Member Grassley and his staff for working with me and my staff on an agreement to allow the committee to cancel last week's markup while still deeming the 12 judicial nominees to have been held over. The agreement enabled members to attend Senator Isaacson's funeral in Georgia. Senator Isaacson was beloved on both sides of the aisle, and the cooperation we saw last week was a testament to his bipartisanship that he exemplified throughout his career. So we have a circumstance today where one of our members on the Democratic side, Senator Feinstein, who was not feeling well this morning and couldn't join us. And so we are changing the agenda to reflect that fact. We will vote on 5 judicial nominees, 4 U.S. attorneys, and the nominee to head the Patent and Trademark Office. We also have 5 judicial nominees and 1 bill listed on the agenda for the first time, and we'll hold over 7 judicial nominees for a second time. So the nominees, is this a list being held over? The nominees that are being held over for first or second time: Allison Nathan, Circuit Judge for the Second Circuit; Victoria Calvert, District Judge for Northern District of Georgia; John Chun, District Judge for the Western District of Washington; Sarah Garrity, District Judge for Northern District of Georgia; Dale Ho, District Judge for the Southern District of New York; Charlotte Sweeney, District Judge for the District of Colorado; Hernan Vera is District Judge for the Central District of California; Georgette Kastner, District Judge for the District of New Jersey; Ruth Bermudez Montenegro, District Judge for the Southern District of California; Julia Rubin, District Judge for the District of Maryland; Christina Silva, District Judge for the District of Nevada; Ann Rachel Traum, District Judge for the District of Nevada, and as well as the legislation S-2992, the American Innovation and Choice Online Act by Senator Klobuchar, is being held over as well. Excuse me if I make sure that I'm going to the right place. I'm going to the right place. I'm going to my right.
Okay.
Senator Grassley.
We would also hold over S-2992
the American Innovation Choice Online Act because this bill is on the agenda for the first time. So I'm going to speak about that bill. I introduced under Senator Klobuchar's leadership, along with many of my colleagues on the committee. The legislation will promote competition on dominant big tech platforms. I look forward to voting on this bill out of committee when we get to it. With respect to nominations, I plan to support Judge Stark, Corley, Judge Stark, Judge Corley, Ms. Brennan, and Judge Ruiz. I'll also vote for Ms. Vidal, U.S. Patent and Trade Office. She's widely respected in intellectual property and has practiced intellectual property law for over 20 years. I ask her views on patent application fees, multiple challenges to the same patent, and concern about the inter partes review process, potentially because it disadvantages small inventors. Ms. Vidal made clear that she understands the challenges facing our patent process as well as concerns from small inventors, and that she'll work to address them. I'd also like to return to a discussion that we had at our executive business meeting December 9th. We discussed the Justice Department's continuing failure to respond to this committee's congressional oversight request. This was very much a bipartisan discussion, and I thank all the colleagues who engaged in it, and probably everybody on the committee agreed with it, even if they didn't engage in the discussion at that time. At that meeting, Senator Durbin mentioned creating a list of outstanding oversight requests. We've done that before as a committee, and the department didn't seem to give it the weight that it ought to have had. We've even had committee-wide call with Attorney General Garland. That call didn't result in any changes in the department's unresponsive posture towards this committee. In other words, thumbing their nose at the constitutional oversight responsibilities that we have. Nevertheless, this week, Republican members transmitted outstanding department requests to Senator Durbin for a second time. We're interested in concrete solutions, not just the rhetoric that we're getting from the department. So I look forward to the continued discussion with you, Senator Durbin, to advance this committee's oversight responsibilities, which it seems to be broad bipartisan support that the department is not responding appropriately.
Let me say, Senator Grassley, as I have before, that we would require of this Justice Department, as we would expect this committee to require of any Justice Department, a responsive approach to any of our inquiries. It starts with the committee and oversight hearings. We've had an oversight hearing and we'll have more with Merrick Garland. For the last 4 years, unfortunately, in the previous administration, we did not. But I think we are trying to resume our position as the oversight committee, active oversight committee for the Judiciary and the Department of Justice. They have shown some responsiveness. You probably were notified, as I was, that this week one of the things that we've requested, the good time credits rule, is being submitted for approval. It's something that you and I have written to the department about in the past, and they are responding. They are responding to some letters from you and other members, but they can do better. Let's see the notes here. I think we covered that.
The chairman's
please.
right on two respects in regard to what Garland told us this week so far, and then you're right in regard to the Trump administration, but it probably goes back several administrations.
Yes. Senator Kennedy, did you seek recognition on this topic?
I did, Mr. Chairman. I understand that we want good relations with our friends in the executive branch and that we should be patient. But at some point, patience ceases to be a virtue. I think we've reached that point. This is not a problem with the Democratic administration. It's a problem with the Democratic administration and the Republican administration. We had the same problem when Republicans are heading the executive branch. And what you allow is what will continue. And I don't know how long we've been talking about this. I don't know why we don't take some concrete steps to say, look, we're serious here. Now, I asked last time if we could sit down and talk about what those concrete steps are going to be, and I would reassert that question. But we just keep giving away our power. We talked about it yesterday. You know, we've given away our power on courts of appeal nominations. And now we're giving away our power just to have our questions answered. You know, sometimes when people act like they don't care, it's not an act. And I don't think, it's not just true of this Justice Department, prior Justice Departments. Their attitude is, look, we're busy, we're important, and if you're upset by that, call somebody who cares. We'll get around to you when we can. And I don't think that's appropriate.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy, and I respect the fact that you have noted that this is a problem not unique to this administration. And it is a reflection of the role and the reputation of this committee, which is the point I tried to make early on when we started last year. I want to restore as best I can, working with Senator Grassley, the reputation of this committee of being serious-minded and usually in the midst of the issues of our time. I think that role has been diminished and should not be. It should be enhanced, and it's our responsibility to do it. I will say that there has been a marginal improvement, a response to a limited degree from the Department of Justice. They can do better. And I'm going to try my best to encourage them to demonstrate that in ways that we can point to, specific responses that we can point to in that regard.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could just quickly, and I appreciate that, and I want to be tactful, and I want to be patient, but we have been. And let me say it again, it's not just this administration. It was the prior administration, and the prior administration, and the prior administration. And I just think it's time that we meet as a body and say, okay, what are we going to do about this? And I'm there. I sense that not everybody is, but I'm there. And I'd ask you to call a special meeting where we could at least talk about what we intend to do here.
I think by constitutional design, Article 2 branch of government is an irritant to Article 1, perhaps to Article 3 as well, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And if we are not that irritant, then we are not doing our job. So I certainly stand behind your remarks. It's a bipartisan challenge. Senator Whitehouse.
If I could just add a bipartisan hue to this, because we continue to have all sorts of troubles getting information out of particularly the FBI. I'll give an example. We've been trying to get the tip line protocol. Presumably there's a document somewhere that says how they run their tip lines. We've never been provided that. We were able to find a YouTube in which an FBI agent described what was going on. The FBI didn't even send me their YouTube of how they do it. It was just Stonewall. And then once you get through the Stonewall, the next step is the briefing, which leaves you with no paper record. And then once you've gotten through the briefing, they, assuming you're continuing to torment them through this whole process, you then get a document dump, but the document dump is offered on the condition that you not disclose any of it, which makes it useless. and then you end up having to finally get your hands on documents. And these are not investigative individual documents. These are policy statements. These are the operating protocols, which are presumably available through a FOIA. And I can't tell you how many months it is into this, and I agree with Senator Kennedy. I don't think it's the Democratic administration. I don't think it's, there were areas when it was the Republican administration, I would say, but I think what we're really up against is the bureaucracy that doesn't want to respond to congressional oversight, period, end of story. And they're just hunkered down, and they got a lot of strategies for pushing us off, fending us off, delaying us, and hoping that the clock runs out, including this preposterous OLC determination the Department of Justice made that all of our pending requests vanish at the end of a Congress. They didn't bother to tell us that. They just let the Congress happen. And I mean, it's just, I share the frustration I think many of us are feeling.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. I'd like to turn to the nominations that I announced previously. First, we have Leonard Stark nominated for the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals. He has served the District of Delaware as Magistrate Judge and District Court Judge, Chief Judge for the District of Delaware, and has presided over thousands of civil and criminal cases. He has a special expertise in patent law, which commends him for this position with the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals. Does anyone seek recognition to speak on Judge Stark's nomination? Senator Coons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just briefly like to offer my wholehearted support for Judge Stark. I've known him for many years. He's a proud graduate of the University of Delaware. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He studied at Yale Law School. But more importantly, he has tremendous experience as a district court judge. He has presided over thousands and thousands of patent cases, and I believe will make an excellent judge on the federal circuit. He has a wealth of experience, great character, and a strong intellect, and I look forward to our proceeding to advance him out of this committee today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If no one else seeks recognition on favorably reporting the nomination of Leonard Philip Stark to be U.S. Circuit Judge for the Federal Circuit, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Leahy.
Aye.
Mrs. Feinstein.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Whitehouse. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Coons. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Rono. Mr. Booker. Mr. Padilla. Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Grassley.
Aye.
Mr. Graham.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Corning. Mr. Lee. Mr. Cruz.
No by proxy.
Mr. Sass.
No by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. Mr. Cotton.
No by proxy.
Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Tillis. Mrs. Blackburn. Chair Durbin.
Aye.
Chair Durbin, the votes are 16 yeas, 6 nays.
The nomination will be favorably reported to the floor. Next is Bridgette Brennan, nominated to the Northern District of Ohio, currently serving as the acting U.S. Attorney. She's been a litigator for 2 decades, a majority of them as prosecutor, handled cases across the board, human and sex trafficking, money laundering, etc. Received a qualified rating from the ABA, bipartisan vote in the committee in December. Does anyone else seek recognition to speak on her nomination? On favorably reporting that nomination that Bridgette Meehan Brennan be U.S. District Judge for the Northern District of Illinois, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Leahy.
Aye.
Mrs. Feinstein.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Whitehouse. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Coons. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Rono. Mr. Booker. Mr. Padilla. Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Grassley.
Aye.
Mr. Graham.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Corning. Mr. Lee. Mr. Cruz.
No by proxy.
Mr. Sass.
No by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. Mr. Cotton.
No by proxy.
Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Tillis. Mrs. Blackburn. Chair Durbin.
Aye.
Chair Durbin, the votes are 15 nays, 7 nays.
The nomination will be favorably reported to the floor. Next is Judge Jacqueline Corley, nominated to the Northern District of California, currently has served since 2011 as Magistrate Judge in the Northern District, has handled a variety of cases in that regard. and served on the district, she clerked on the District of Massachusetts Federal District, and 20-year legal career between private practice and service as law clerk to Judge Charles Breyer, California's Northern District. ABA found her unanimously well qualified. Does anyone seek recognition to speak on Judge Corley's nomination? If not, the nomination to be U.S. District Judge for the Northern District of California of Jacqueline Scott Corley, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Leahy. Mrs. Feinstein.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Whitehouse. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Coons. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Rono. Mr. Booker. Mr. Padilla. Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Graham.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Corning. Mr. Lee. Mr. Cruz.
No by proxy.
Mr. Sass.
No by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. Mr. Cotton.
No by proxy.
Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Tillis. Mrs. Blackburn. Chair Durbin.
Aye.
Chair Durbin, the votes are 16 yeas, 6 nays.
The nomination will be reported to the floor. Next is Charles Fleming, nominated to the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Ohio. Extensive litigation experience, attended Kent State and Case Western, worked as Assistant Federal Public Defender for the Northern District, has a remarkable breadth of courtroom experience, tried 17 cases to verdict. ABA rates him unanimously well qualified. Does anyone else seek recognition to speak on Mr. Fleming's nomination? If not, on favorably reporting that nomination, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Leahy. Mrs. Feinstein.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Whitehouse. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Coons. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Rono. Mr. Booker. Mr. Padilla. Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Grassley.
No.
Mr. Graham.
Oh, aye by proxy.
Mr. Corning. Mr. Lee. Mr. Cruz.
No by proxy.
Mr. Sack.
No by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. Mr. Cotton.
No by proxy.
Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Tillis. Mrs. Blackburn. Chair Durbin.
Aye.
Chair Durbin, the votes are 14 yeas, 9 nays.
Nomination will be favorably reported to the floor. Next is Judge David Ruiz for the Northern District of Ohio. He served as U.S. Magistrate there. He's been rated unanimously well qualified by the ABA. He served as an Assistant U.S. Attorney and as litigator in private practice before his term as magistrate. Does anyone seek recognition to speak on Judge Ruiz's nomination? On favorably reporting that nomination, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Leahy. Mrs. Feinstein.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Whitehouse. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Coons. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Rono. Mr. Booker. Mr. Padilla. Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Grassley.
Aye.
Mr. Graham.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Corning. Mr. Lee. Mr. Cruz.
No by proxy.
Mr. Sass.
No by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. Mr. Cotton.
No by proxy.
Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Tillis. Mrs. Blackburn. Chair Durbin.
Aye.
Chair Durbin, the votes are 14 yeas, 8 nays.
The nomination will be favorably reported to the floor, and for the record, on the Fleming nomination, the clerk mistakenly reported it as 14-9. It should have been corrected to report 13-9. Doesn't change the vote, obviously. Next is Kathy Vidal, nominated to head the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, more commonly known as PTO, well-qualified nominee, 25 years. She's been litigating patent and intellectual property matters. She's tried 32 of them to decision. She really has a deep understanding of this office and will be an asset to its management. Does anyone else seek recognition to speak on Ms. Vidal's nomination?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. The committee doesn't need to hear from me about how important and critical to innovation patents are. And the committee doesn't need to hear from me because it knows it already, that big tech doesn't like patents because it impinges on their market dominance. Now, I don't know Ms. Vidal that well. I sent questions to her to answer. The answers were very evasive. They were really non-answers. The problem I have with her, and the reason I'm going to vote against her, is the same problem I had with the last 3 Patent Office directors. And that is that if you took big tech and turned it upside down and shook it, that our Patent Office directors would fall out of big tech's pocket. And we keep talking about doing something about this problem, but we never do it. I don't doubt that Ms. Vidal is smart. I know she's smart. She's a partner at Winston Strong, where she and her partners represent big tech. I mean, her predecessors, one of her predecessors worked at IBM for 25 years, and then we put him head of the Patent Office. One of the prior directors worked as senior patent counsel for Google from 2003 until her confirmation. What was she confirmed to do? We put her on as running the Patent Office. So, you know, that's the problem. I have every one of these administrative law judges, every single one of them, report to the director. And I'm not making any allegations that anybody's done anything improper, but there's sure the appearance of the absence of a level playing field. And my final point is, I've been here 5 years, which I know is less than a lot of you, but during those 5 years, we've talked a lot about big tech. And what we've done over those 5 years is strut around and issue press releases and hold hearings and do nothing. So when we get past the current issue before the Senate as a body, Voting Rights Act, those of you who have influence with Senator Schumer, we may want to turn to big tech. Just a thought. But I just wanted to get that up record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kennedy, I don't want to step on any news that will be issued after this meeting, but buckle your seatbelt. This committee is going to be taking some forays into the field that you just mentioned. Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be supporting Ms. Vidal's nomination. I've worked very closely with Senator Leahy as current chair of the Intellectual Property Subcommittee, and before that with Senator Coons in a ranking member capacity. Director Iancu made a lot of progress on PTAB, made a lot of progress on going after big tech that was trying to make it very difficult for small innovators to protect their intellectual property. We asked some very poignant questions of Ms. Vidal and questions for the record, and in my personal discussions with her, I have her assurance that she's going to continue the reforms that are in the right direction, and I believe that they do address some of the things that Senator Kennedy mentioned, and I have confidence that with her expertise and her commitments that she'll be a good replacement for Director Iancu. I think with the progress that we're making on PTAB and a number of other patent issues, that this committee should consider codifying some of these things so that we keep them and make them have staying power after they're promulgated.
Thank you, Senator Tillis. Senator Leahy.
Thank you. I agree with Senator Tillis. He and I requested the administration back last March, I believe it was, Senator Tillis. We jointly requested to move ahead with a nomination. I'll put my full statement in the record. But I do support this nominee, and I agree with what Senator Tillis just said.
So if no one else seeks recognition to speak on this nomination, the nomination of Catherine Vidal to be Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Leahy.
Aye.
Mrs. Feinstein.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Whitehouse. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Coons. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Rono.
One more.
Mr. Booker. Mr. Padilla. Aye. Mr. Ossoff. No. Mr. Grassley.
Aye.
Mr. Graham.
Aye, by proxy.
Mr. Corning. Aye. Mr. Lee.
No.
Mr. Cruz.
No, by proxy.
Mr. Sass.
Aye, by proxy.
Mr. Hawley. No. Mr. Cotton.
Aye, by proxy.
Mr. Kennedy. I'm sorry? No. Mr. Tillis. Mrs. Blackburn.
Let the U.S. Attorney's voice vote.
Chair Durbin.
Aye.
Chair Durbin, the votes are 17 yeas, 5 nays.
The nomination will be favorably reported to the floor. We have 4 U.S. attorneys: Ryan Buchanan of the Northern District of Georgia, Jason Ferguson, District of Nevada, Andrew Lugar, District of Minnesota, Mark Totten of the Western District of Michigan. Does anyone seek recognition to speak on the U.S. attorneys? I understand we can proceed with an en bloc voice vote on the 4 U.S. attorneys before us today. So on favorably reporting the nominations of Buchanan, Ferguson, Lugar, and Totten to be U.S. attorneys, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The majority of the members present having voted in the affirmative, the ayes have it. The nominations.
Mr. Chairman.
Just one second. The nominations will be reported favorably to the floor with the following exceptions.
I'd like to be recorded as a no on all, please.
Senator Hawley voted no.
Recorded as a no on all.
Senator Blackburn is recorded no. Senator Cruz is recorded no. Senator Lee is recorded no on all 4. Is that a fact? Senator Lee will be recorded as a no on Jason Ferguson and Andrew Lugar, aye on the other 2. Any other members wishing to seek exceptions? So as I mentioned earlier, the nominations with those addenda will be favorably reported to the floor. And if there's no other business to come before the Senate Judiciary Committee, we stand adjourned.